I might live a mediocre life. But I don't care about winning. The most dreadful unpopular opinions on the internet from strangers you will learn to hate. The expression, "it happened for a reason," is not comforting to anyone. People use this expression all the time to make a bad situation seem okay. But reasons aren't innately good. So it doesn't make sense that any reason should automatically be a comforting thought. What if that reason is because you were abandoned or someone else is just evil? Sure, those are reasons, and yes, it's true that everything happens for a reason. But that doesn't automatically make the cause or effect a positive thing. There is nothing wrong with running away from your problems. Everyone has problems. I find no shame in running away from them. It doesn't make anyone less of a person. People always tell you to confront the problem and find ways to fix it. But I think, there are problems that just can't be fixed, or I don't want them to be fixed. I mean, I just don't see anything wrong with running away from a problem. Relationship? Leave. Family? Leave. Work? Leave. Somebody replied, when something bad happens. Sometimes the reason is out of your control. Sometimes things just don't go your way. And, hand to heart, sometimes you're the one who messed things up. Hell, sometimes you luck. Sometimes you make the right choices. But more often than not, things works out most of the time, usually better than how you wanted it to begin with. A dying person's last days should not be spent giving closure to the living. I'm not talking about people who pass away in tragic accidents or in a vegetative state or on life support. I'm speaking more about those with terminal illness, on hospice, etc. Particularly when parents or spouses hoard the time of their loved one in their final days. Too often the person who is dying feels obligated to please everyone else, make sure they fit in time for everyone, and are sometimes even made to feel guilty if they don't want to do something or see someone. I think this is selfish and wrong. On the contrary, if someone is dying and they want to see you, you should make every effort to fulfill this wish. It should be about what they want. If someone wants to spend their final days alone, they should be able to. If they want to spend their days surrounded by lots of people, great. If they want to eat ice cream or vegetables, if they want silence or raging music, if they want to be at home or at a center, they should have whatever they want and need, regardless of what their friends and loved ones want. It's not their job to help us feel better. Certainly make memories, cherish the time together, but above all respect the dying person's wishes for their final days, even if they are different from what you might want. I hate how people have now decided to make everything into a competition. People all over the place on the internet say, "My life is worse than yours, therefore I'm better." Please praise me and tell me I'm brave for living an awful life because I crave attention and lack any other source of positive interactions. I recently posted a post here saying that my period is something I look forward to, because I didn't get it in a year due to medical conditions, and people were angry. A lot of women were angry and said that I'm privileged and sending me threat messages saying I'm a butthole. I never said that people with PCOS and endometriosis don't suffer, but I was just sharing my experience. Still, there were people who were angry and said I was being inconsiderate. It became a competition of who suffers the most, and I ended up taking down the post because of the hate. I hate how people become so bitter towards others and want to show off how they suffer. Art preference is subjective, but quality is. I keep hearing stuff like all music is subjective, and I think stuff like this devalues the hard work and talent that it takes to be a good musician, artist, writer, etc. That's why we sometimes like movies that we know are bad, or hate stuff that is good. I think that we can objectively call music, paintings, or movies as good or bad. There are a lot of ways to measure art, which is why people study it. Embracing people who admit their mistakes would turn the world into a better place. The first step to rethink an opinion is admitting you were wrong or made a mistake. Unfortunately, many people see this as a sign of weakness rather than a sign of greatness. The whole society expects members of their peer group to stay as they are. Take a group of activists, regardless of what they're fighting for, and imagine one of them suddenly changes slightly and starts to discuss the other side's views. Even if it is just a few topics, like, maybe our enemies are not completely wrong. I thought about topic 1 and 2, they had very good arguments. The group would probably get mad and maybe even exclude this member. So most people are afraid to rethink their opinion. Why is this a bad thing for the entire world? Think of any people in history who clearly went wrong. Take slavery or apartheid. Take witch hunters or the bosses of tobacco companies. All of these people must have had their moments of, "Isn't this wrong?" But probably almost none of them had the guts to openly say this. It's not only the fear of facing serious consequences. I guess it's also the mentality we teach our kids and a psychological problem. If you did something for a very long time, admitting it was wrong will turn all this into one big series of mistakes. It is easier to repeat a mistake for the rest of your life, lying to yourself that it's the right thing, than to actually do it right from now on. If we could overcome this and encourage people to rethink, the world would become a better place. However, it's probably illusory. Driver's licenses should be more difficult to obtain. Some of these people on the road shouldn't be driving. If someone demonstrates they can't safely handle a firearm or drive, they don't get a license. Why should cars be any different? I also think that people should have to retake their driving test every so often. I have a CDL and we have to constantly renew and do safety classes, etc. Regular licenses need something like that. Not as severe, but here's something shocking. My grandpa is 92 years old. He got his license when he was a teenager. Let's say he was 18. That's 74 years ago. That's 1948. Side view mirrors and seat belts were optional extras. Interstate highways were barely a thing at that point. There were so few cars on the road. Driving was night and day different. It's insane to me that he still has a license when driving has changed so much and gotten way more difficult and dangerous. There are tons of people on the road now that I don't think would be able to pass a driving test now. There's nothing wrong with never taking any risks. People say, not taking any risk is the greatest risk of all. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. Fortune favors the bold. But these are all slogans meant to encourage arrogance, disregard and that camouflage the vast majority of people who got burned. I live my life not going into any battle I am sure to win, never sticking my neck out for anything, never saying an opinion that might be taken the wrong way. Yes, I might live a mediocre life. But I don't care about winning. I care about not losing. Paris is a terrible city. For some reason, I believe that going to Paris would be like going to the most beautiful city on earth, and I was quite underwhelmed when I got there. Someone tried to nick my mum's purse while we were on the metro. The city is very messy and litter is virtually everywhere. The only nice bit was the cultural bit such as the area surrounding the Eiffel Tower, but even then, it felt like it was still very scummy. London, on the other hand, felt very clean to me in comparison. Of course, neither city is particularly clean, but the posh parts of London felt much nicer than the posh parts of Paris. London also had such a unique vibe to it that Paris did not have. It felt more vibrant, more historic and more culturally iconic. I thought it was going to be the other way around. Overall, I think Paris is a bad city because of its crime and dirtiness. However, I am sure it is quite nice if you are rich. If you split up with your spouse or partner because of fertility issues, you were never truly in love to begin with and the relationship would have failed. I've seen a lot of people who get divorced because they couldn't give me biological children, and I understand that wanting or not wanting children can be a deal breaker for some people. But if you both wanted kids and found out one of you is infertile, that should be a moment where you comfort your spouse and talk about your options. If you leave because of it, you never loved that person, you loved the idea of having their kids. Somebody replied, years ago, my wife and I wanted to try having a baby. Long story short, she had 2 ectopic pregnancies. First one we caught before any major issues, second one wasn't so lucky. It almost killed her, and before the surgeon operated, her doctor came to me in the waiting room to tell me that her tubes were all really long and twisted up and that if we keep trying we had like a 1% chance if we were lucky and the risk to her was insanely high to die from childbirth. She has a kid from a previous relationship from her youth and she just wanted to give me a child. So I made the decision to do whatever that had to make sure this didn't happen again, which meant we wouldn't be able to conceive unless we used other means. When my wife came out of surgery, She asked me why I told the doctors to do what they did. They told her what I told them before doing it to make sure she was okay with it, and she agreed, but I told her I have a beautiful stepson who's enough of a child for me, and that the thought of losing her over trying to conceive was not an option. We have been happily married 10 years and been together 13 and could never imagine my life without her. It's incredibly rude to not rinse your dishes and put them in the dishwasher at someone else's house. If someone has offered you food, the least you can do is rinse and put your dishes in the dishwasher if there is one. It only takes 30 seconds and makes it so they don't have to deal with it, or easier to hand wash since it won't be covered in caked on food. The only exceptions are if you have been explicitly told not to, or if someone else takes your dish. This should be a given, but I've found it to be a rarity. Nobody wants to deal with your dirty dishes. Positive thinking is overemphasized. I expect disappointment every day. I call this my dispectations. I expect my favorite team to continue its losing streak today. I expect my children to disappoint me sometime this week. I expect a friend to cancel at the last minute. I expect my car will need a high-dollar repair again soon. I expected to be disappointed by the things I read today. I expect the food at this restaurant to not be as good as they say. With all of the possible points of failure for almost every desired outcome, it's easier to be mentally prepared for failure and dissatisfaction. Conversely, when something goes right, I can be that much more surprised and happy. Embrace dispectations. It's a more accurate way to view the world, and it will save you from a lot of disappointment. I agree with you that this is definitely unpopular. I used to get very stressed out and emotional when plans changed at the last minute or when people were late. Then I started expecting the worst for these plans, and I find myself much more stable when they change, and in a good mood when they don't change. Meanwhile, I have a friend who said I am probably depressed if I am only expecting the worst to happen. I think this strategy should be accepted. I'm sick and tired of people pretending they're rich. The amount of broke people I know who walk around in clothes that cost thousands of dollars, and carry phones that cost over $1,000 is insane. I'm tired of it. Stop going broke pretending you're not. You don't need fancy cars to get around, the most expensive phone to text or browse the internet, or the latest fashion to look good. Everyone I know makes about as much money as me, 30 to 50K a year, yet you see them buying $50,000 cars, a $4,000 watch. People are buying fancy bags they don't even use. Or $600 shoes, then wondering why they're broke all the time. I'm so sick and tired of everyone pretending they're boogie. I'm sick of every SoundCloud rapper pretending they're rich and famous with 20 streams. I'm sick of people thinking that they should save their entire life for a Ferrari or some car so they can drive it to the supermarket once a week. Think of the stuff you could actually be doing with that money instead. You could eat more or better, you could sleep sounder with less bills, or a better bed. You could have time to actually do something you like to do instead of working twice as hard to afford to look like you don't have to work. You can do so much more than just buy fancy things with every paycheck. This idea that it's shameful to make less than 100K a year is such poop, and I'm tired of pretending it is anything but. Go to Goodwill. Clothes that fit are better than overpriced second-hand Supreme merch. Go to Walmart. Drive a Jetta, who cares? I'm not even saying not to have expensive hobbies, at least that's something you actually like to do. Build your $2,000 computer, spend $200 to $300 to go skydiving, buy paints to do art, whatever. But spending money for the exclusive reason of wanting to look richer than you are, or to impress people with your wealth or whatever, is such awful trash. Being friends with your exes is a green flag, not a red one. Don't get me wrong, I understand why it sparks jealousy, and there are certainly situations where it crosses a line, but overall I think in general it shows someone is capable of ending things in a healthy and mature way, and that they will still treat you with respect even if things were to go south. Thank you for watching till the end. You are the ones I make these videos for. Let me know if you agree with any of these opinions, and I will see you tomorrow for some more hand-picked Reddit stories.